Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Hello and welcome to this week's Countryside programme here on Manx Radio. I'm Simon Clark.
And I'm Kirree. I popped along to see the General Manager of the Kirree Wildlife Park, Kathleen Graham.
And I talk about the Kirree and wildflowers with John Dog Callister, plus it's sheep shearing season. Well, you'll be in the thick of it now. The weather's truly warmed up, Kirree, hasn't it? Later in the programme, we're talking about the flowers, which struggled a bit with the weather that was. It was a bit hit and miss for a while. Also, we'll find out what's happening at the wildlife park. But you'll be thick in the middle of getting the wool off the sheep, are you?
It has. It's come round really suddenly this time, Simon. It was so bitterly cold there, and we were looking at the temperatures, especially at night time. The shock of shearing sheep can actually tip them over the edge, and the very cold nights can actually see them off. So
is that a big thing that farmers have to watch and just monitor the weather and the temperatures before they shear them?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's absolutely vital that the weather at night time isn't too cool, because the shock from it will kill them. And shearing this year is a whole month behind, but we've just been waiting for the evening temperature to rise, and which it has on this fine bank holiday weekend we've just had. Lots of shearers out and about getting the wool off, and some saying there's a bit of fly strike as well, so all hands to the deck.
Yeah, just in time then. Well, I popped along to one of the young farmers' first events of the sheep shearing world. Anyway, the Northern Young Farmers held their event at Ballasteen Farm in Kirree. I caught up with the chairman, Jacob Duggan, also to Michael Taggart and Gordon, who were doing some hand shearing. But first of all, I sort of got straight in the action with Michael Kelly. You're in the middle of shearing the sheep here now, so we could get a bit of action going. Racing through this top bit here, but is it where you start that makes the difference?
There's a way of doing it, and you've got to really stick by that way of doing it.
And that been the same way over many years now, or has nobody developed a new way?
I don't know, Josh. I've only ever known the Bowen style, and that's it really.
So where did they start on these ones? Is it round the tummy?
You start by opening the belly and then go into the back left leg.
And that's another one done. So that hasn't took very long though to get that one done.
No, it doesn't take long if the sheep are good and ready, kind of thing.
What about the conditions or the type of sheep? Does that make a difference to how quick you can do them?
Yeah, sheep like these are pretty easy, but you get like a Dorset or like a Ryland, something like that they can be tough. You've got to go in around the eyes and around the legs. Tough? You got to go in around the legs, the eyes, wool from the nose to the to the feet.
Yeah. But how many will you have to do in a season?
Good question. It'll be a few thousand anyway.
Would it? Yeah, just of your own or contracted for other people too?
My own and contracted.
Yeah. Kind of thing. And it's as Dennis Duggan was telling me there was one thing you needed for to be a good sheep shearer was a strong back and a weak mind.
Yeah, you can say that.
But it's tough going, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
But the weather's just warmed up, so I suppose the sheep will be glad of getting the coats off them.
Yeah, it's time to be getting on with it now, getting pushed on, getting them done.
Well, great to watch it, so I'll let you crack on, do a bit
more. Okay, thank you.
Michael Taggart.
Oh yes, Simon.
Yes, we're in a bit of an older tradition here.
Yeah, we're clipping with what the Manx would call the joushes, and this would be the way that the clipping would be done 40-50 years ago, but it's still done a lot of what they call in the world as blade shearing in the world now, but in South Africa and all, where they have no power in the areas where the sheep are, so there's still a lot of blade shearing done. And it's good to keep the tradition going.
Yeah, well, you're keeping a close eye on a bit of an apprentice you got with you.
Yeah, it's his first time. He's never clipped a sheep before in his life, so he's having a go at it. So it's good to get a new willing victim to do a bit of shearing. And he's awful worried he was going to cut it, but I said, as long as we keep the skin tight, you'll be right enough.
And it's the same sort of principle when you're clipping with the modern shears, isn't it? You keep everything tight.
Yeah, but it's a lot faster sort of thing, isn't it, with the modern shears. If you watch on the YouTube and all, you'll see them, and they're shearing like lambs in 18 seconds as the world record. 18 seconds to clip a sheep is just unreal, like.
And most of them champions, I suppose, are out in New Zealand and places like that. Are they
The actual
where
world,
there's thousands.
Yeah, well, the world record holder at the minute is an Irish lad.
Really?
Yeah, he's from Ireland, from Southern Ireland, I think it is.
But a lot of the even the Manx people have headed out to these across to the southern hemisphere to do seasons doing the sheep.
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff.
there's Richard Martin and Erin Kirree. They were all out in New Zealand. Pip Kermode, past Island champion. Kate Kirree, she was one of the top shearers in the world for women. And her son's now clipping here today, we're hoping. Young Daniel, he's in the room here, in the shed here today. So, yeah, it's good. But we've had all the world record holders here. We had Jimmy Clark, who's married to one of the Comishes from down south. And Jimmy was shearing 500-600 in a day, every day. So, world records. And then you got Magnum, as he was always known. Paul Rutherford, he's married to Brenda Crow from Foxdale. A big world shearer as well, and they shear in a team.
So for such a small place, we got quite a good pedigree of shearers.
Yeah, and James Ratcliffe, he's really good to sort of get people to go to the world championships in the world. He's had Daniel Kirree go to France to clip. But in the world, it's a hard job to get shearers now. I was only looking on the internet there, and Australia and New Zealand, they're all finding it very difficult to get a shearer to come.
Trying my best here.
Well, Gordon, you're having a go here. How are you finding it so far?
It's difficult. I'm just worried in case I don't hurt the sheep, really, to be honest with you. But it's a great experience, and it's brilliant to be here. Yeah, and it'd be great to watch these professional guys, cut the sheep and maybe get some hints and tips for my son's sheep that he has.
Well, let's hope they don't cut the sheep.
Yeah.
If you just go in a little bit tighter along there and clip underneath, it's a little bit difficult at the minute.
Yeah, I'm just scared in case I hurt the sheep.
Yeah, but I suppose the more challenging will be when you have to hold the sheep as well as clip it, Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, they are big animals, and you've obviously just got to make sure that they're okay and they're comfortable. But yeah, it is a different experience for me, and it's great to be a part of it, actually. And it's great to see how the professional guys are actually doing it. And I do like the fact that they're using the traditional methods, which is quite good. I'm quite old school myself, and it's good to see this getting done.
Yeah, be handy enough to take them to the barbers. I don't know what they make of that.
I think I might get my hair cut next, actually.
You're lucky you got some to cut. Let's get a word with the chairman of the Northern Young Farmers, Jacob Duggan. It's the perfect day for it, really.
Yeah, well, it is and it isn't, Simon. We haven't got many farmers here because everyone's busy shearing their own sheep and doing silage and bits like that. But it's nice to see people that we wouldn't normally see here at these young farmers events, really.
I suppose that's a good thing in a way, because the people, if people had finished their shearing and stuff, they'd be here and they'd know what was happening, where a lot of the younger ones that are here watching, many won't have seen it done like this before, especially the old hand shear way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's nice to see so many unfamiliar faces, really, and getting the public perception up about farming, and that we're caring for our animals and bits like that. It's very good to see.
And it's come at a perfect time, isn't it? Because it's been a bit of a cold spell. It's pretty warm out the last couple of days, and it's just time to get the wool off them, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It has been very cold at night recently, and now it's wet. Now the weather is warming up. Yeah, it's definitely good to get the wool off, and they'll feel a lot better for it as well.
And one perception, I suppose, is that some will look and never seen it done before and think, you're pulling the sheep round and you're cutting the wool off them. But they never survive in the summers with the full coats of wool on, would they?
No, absolutely not. No, especially once you get blowfly and bits like that. The sheep have got no chance. So it's definitely good to get them clipped.
And what about, usually see a stack of girls learning how to wrap the fleeces when the boys have threw them down as well?
Yeah, that's usually the shearer's missus is usually the wrapper, isn't she? Yeah, it's good. Yeah, we'll get some wrapping demonstrations on in a minute, and show everyone how to do it.
Because that's, there's a certain way, as Michael Kelly says, to do the sheep, where you start, when you finish, and the Bowen style he was using there. But there's a certain way of wrapping the fleeces. There's an art to that as well, because a lot of people won't remember the big wool bags, and as kids we used to sit on them and play on them. It was like being on a cloud of cotton wool.
Yeah. No, as you can see, Gordon's just here, just learning how to wrap this fleece neatly now. It's, I don't think it's as important nowadays as it used to be to wrap the fleeces tight, but it's still definitely needed, and it is an art as well as shearing. Wrapping the fleece is an art as well.
Where will the wool head off to eventually?
I don't honestly know. I'll head to St John's, won't it, to wool mills to be sorted and then shipped away. But wool isn't worth very much at the minute, so it's there's a lot of people just not bothering with it at the minute. But
it must be great to have an outdoor young farmers event, though.
It is, yeah. We're very lucky over here at the minute. When you see the likes of England and how they're still in different stages of lockdown and all, we're extremely lucky here, really.
The chairman of the Northern Young Farmers, Jacob Duggan. Before that we had Gordon, and also Michael Taggart with their hand shearing, and then Michael Kelly on the stage there. It was a bit worrying there with the sheep moving around, me trying to get in on the word. He did well to chat and shear the sheep at the same time.
Multitasking. He's a good lad, Michael, and those boys will be busy taking orders now for sheep shearing around the Isle of Man. But what a great spectacle it is to see the hand shearing, from yesteryear, and how much work goes into it. But they can do it equally as well as the modern day electric machines, though, can't they?
Yeah, a little bit slower, that's all, though. But thousands to do, so it's incredible. And the success and talent that we've got on the Isle of Man is quite unusual for a small place, isn't it? Where, there's been some very good shearers in the past, and I've done a lot of work over in the Southern Hemisphere.
That's right. We always heavily rely on the Southern Hemisphere to come and help out, but this pandemic has really focused some of maybe our younger farmers into a task that they may have shied away from, or thought, the professional ones will be better than me. They've really stepped up to the challenge. There's a lot of good local shearers here now, and still there's plenty of coaches if there's anyone looking to learn. Just give any of the farmers a call and, have a go, isn't it? But it's so important that we take the wool off the sheep at this time of year. It is for welfare. There's no money to be made in the wool.
Rubbish, as you were saying.
So vitally important. We get on with it.
Indeed. Well, you took a trip to speak to the general manager of the Kirree Wildlife Park.
Yes, Kathleen Graham, a very busy lady and very hard to get hold of at times. And there in the Australian aviary, with the sound of all those Australian birds, with the heat from the weekend, did make you feel like you're abroad. I caught up with Kathleen to see how the park has been going. Well, Kathleen, we're here back at the Wildlife Park, and what a year we've had. It's just been undescribable. And how was the park fettled compared to, I believe in the news, some of the zoos away were really struggling?
We have been lucky, I guess. We've certainly reevaluated things. I think 2020 and this whole pandemic has made us all reevaluate things. And we were grateful that the Isle of Man government, has dealt so well with this pandemic, and it has allowed us to be open more than a lot of the zoos in the UK. And we're very fortunate that we're well supported by locals. In fact, membership has really sort of went through the roof. I guess everybody figured they weren't going anywhere on holiday, so they might as well join up and become a member, and they've realised, what value they get out of that.
And here today, Kathleen, you say that it is looking absolutely stunning. I know it is always a nice time of year anyway, but so much has been done in this wildlife park.
Well, we're getting there. We're always working hard. We've got our new Australian aviary. That's the newest exhibit. We've got our 5 galahs have moved over from their old enclosure into there, but they're now also sharing that enclosure with Sebastian, the sulphur-crested cockatoo, and we've got 6 crested Australian pigeons in there, so it's quite a nice exhibit, and it gives them a lot more flight space than they ever had before. We've got plans. They always seem to take a bit longer than what you think, but we've got plans for other new enclosures and improvements, and I think it's just nice to see a lot of the animals grow and thrive. We've not got as many breeding plans for this year.
That's interesting because your breeding plans are always successful, seemingly.
Yeah, I mean, 2020, when we were locked down, we had really a baby boom. We had 10 penguin chicks. We had our gibbon born last year. We had red pandas born. We had meerkats. We had lemurs, ringtail lemurs. So lots of births. But this year, we've kind of had to put a bit of a hold on things. A lot of people don't realise that it's not always about breeding. It's managed genetics, and the stud bookkeeper really needs to take into account how many you've already bred, how many are related. So our ringtail lemur group is now halted and we've stopped breeding. So they're at a nice size. The stud bookkeeper for red pandas didn't give us a breeding recommendation this year, so no red panda babies this year.
Goodness.
And our penguin chicks, a lot of people will have saw that 14, the last 2 years, penguin chicks went off to Northern Ireland. So this year we have bred just a few more, but we had to take 1 or 2 eggs away,
keep it under control.
Keep it under control. So we've got 3 penguin chicks this year. So that's just a nice number. We'll keep them, to keep the age span throughout the group. So not a huge amount of breeding this year, but we're standing here watching Aileen, aren't we? She's great. So, I mean, she's still a baby, really. She's under a year old, and gibbons, being primates, they're like us. They spend, a long time looking after their young. So Finlow is here, and he'll be here for at least another 4 years in the family group. And we've now got little Aileen as well, who's still very cute.
Very, very cute. And I remember coming to visit you, Kathleen, when Finlow was hanging from the rafters in the enclosure, and today we're watching little Aileen on the rope above the water there. No fear, but just in her element, isn't she? She's just gorgeous.
Yeah, it's great, and being so well supported by locals here means that our conservation fund has really been able to grow, and that's really important because some zoos in the UK have actually had to maybe cut back some of their conservation commitments as they've struggled to survive, whereas we've been really fortunate that when you come in now, or if you're a member, there's a voluntary donation included that you can opt out of. It is voluntary. You can say, can I opt out? But most people, vast majority, haven't been opting out. And that means that our conservation fund this year is really growing. So we're going to be able to help tapirs in the Pantanal. Wow. There's a really great conservationalist who does a lot of work with zoos, who's worked out there for years, who does fantastic work with tapirs and other species in the Pantanal. So that's a project that we're supporting this year. We're also looking at supporting golden lion tamarins, a yellow fever vaccination programme for them, because the golden lion tamarins have actually decreased recently in the wild because of yellow fever. And we've got other projects. We're looking at supporting fishing cat maybe this year as well. And of course, let's not forget Manx Wildlife Trust. Last year we sponsored and helped with the Shearwater project, and we'll probably be doing the same again. So we'll be doing some conservation on island, but also some conservation with the species that we breed in captivity. So we're really proud. We're proud of the people of the Isle of Man as well to have supported the park so well, to the point where we can actually increase the amount of conservation work. And let's not forget that this pandemic has started because of man's interference really into wild animals, and it's often when we disrupt nature too much, we're going to get more of these pandemics. So I think it's really important that we step up the conservation work and protect the wild areas and give animals a place and a home, on the planet, and not flatten everything. So it's really good that people can come to this park. They can truly enjoy and connect to the animals here and know that they're actually helping those animals in the wild as well.
And you say that there is an abundance of animals, Kathleen. The like you just mentioned there, the golden lion tamarin, he just looks absolutely stunning. And so many people share their photographs on Facebook and social media channels. But there's so many great animals. And the lemurs, how are they settling in now after the terrible fire a few years ago?
Oh yeah, our gentle lemurs are doing really well. The Phoenix was the baby who was born just after that fire, but they've settled down. The parents are quite old now, so we haven't had any more babies from the gentle lemurs. But I think they've probably decided themselves that they're not breeding anymore. And yeah, our golden lion tamarins you were talking about, they're getting a little braver. It's taking them a long time, but they come out of that corner a little bit more, and we're going to try and tempt them outside this year. That would be nice.
But there's lots to see and do, and away from the animals, I see that the bouncy pillow's back in full flow again and ready for the children to come back.
Yeah, well, it needs replaced every 8 years or so. So we were going to replace it in the winter of 2020.
No.
But of course we couldn't. There's only one company in the whole UK that does them, so we couldn't bring them across. But we've now had to bite the bullet and get them just before the school holidays. So we might have the jumping pillow out of action, but we're hoping it will be fully in action and it will be a brand new look jumping pillow for the school holidays. So fingers crossed, if the borders do completely open, we're able to get them in and get the pillow replaced. But yeah, it's got a big sticky patch on it at the moment. So tell your kids not to pick that patch off until we can get it replaced.
And you still have the cafe and the miniature railway, all things to add to a great place.
Yeah, the Mangrove Cafe, Tim and Rachel have done really well there. Bless them, they started as new tenants in the cafe for about 2 weeks, and then we had a lockdown. And then we were open for the summer, then they've had a lockdown. So they've had a lot of disruption to their business, but they've really given a refresh, and it's a really pleasant place to go and eat while you're sitting out there looking at the flamingos on the lake.
Yeah, you just can't beat the outdoors, and especially when it's weather like this, and let's hope this continues after quite a cold spring. But volunteers can still get involved, Kathleen.
Yeah, the supporters charity, they've been working quite hard on revamping the nature trail. That's due to be open in June, so it's a new look nature trail with some interactive interpretation on there. So there's kid-friendly stuff, but there's also boards that are aimed more at, adults, if you want to read to that slightly higher level. So it's good for all the family. So they've been busy on that. So there's the supporters, you can join them, or get in touch with them if you want to do a kind of corporate Make a Difference day. There's also our Discovery team volunteers, as we call them. Liz, the education manager, manages them, and they do things like man the lemur walk-in. So we're always open to more people who can come and kind of help do this Discovery shed, or if you're very good at presentation, you might be able to do some of the public feed talks. But yeah, there's always lots of ways to get involved.
And talking about the public feed talks and all the rest of it, there's still opportunities to see the animals being fed and to actually go in and interact with them.
Yeah, I mean we do the feed talks. We have maybe a presentation, say in the Rainforest Theatre, where we'll bring out bugs, maybe sometimes one reptile. The volunteer will bring out one reptile at a time. So yeah, you can do that, and the lemur walk-in's great when we've got that open. Just being able to hang out with the lemurs, I think that's the most popular volunteer.
And are they getting used to people now?
Yeah, I mean we train the people to stay on the path, and that's why the volunteer needs to be there. So as long as people are trained to stay on the path and not feed the lemurs and respect that it's their home, the lemurs then become really relaxed about people being there because they know they're not going to step off the path. So it's then on the lemurs' terms whether they want to come up to visitors or not. So that works really well.
Absolutely. And a firm favourite in our household is the meerkats. Just those little inquisitive things. Oh, just fantastic animals.
They're always busy, the meerkats. You can guarantee they'll be out and about, scurrying about, watching for birds of prey in the sky, looking for insects in the sand. So we've got a group of 12 down there now. So yeah, they're always a favourite, I think, for a lot of people.
So any more future plans, Kathleen? I know you've got your work cut out as it is, and it's looking wonderful.
Yeah, we're working on rock hyrax as the next new exhibit. I'll say coming soon, because you never know how long things are going to take. But yeah, there's the bigger plans as well. We need to do a new education centre at some point, things like that. But I've been here 9 years now. I can't believe it's that long.
Wow, that has flown by.
And I still say maybe about 5% achieved of what we potentially could achieve here. But we can't achieve that without the fabulous staff we've got here and volunteers and all the other support from around government and all over the place. Yeah, so it's just great to have the community involved.
So now this is it, open for the summer.
Yes, 7 days a week, 9:30 till 5 o'clock. Last admission's 4 o'clock. We're hoping to put on a bit of a fun day during the TT holidays, and we'll be able to do the summer fun days again. So membership's really worth it.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's business as usual. The only thing that we weren't able to do this year was the Wild Academy summer school, because that takes an awful lot of planning, and we need to get the staff back in about Easter time, and we just didn't know where we would be with that. So summer school will have to wait till 2022 to return. But apart from that, fingers crossed, it's all back to
Business as normal.
Yeah, business as usual this summer.
That was Kathleen Graham, the General Manager of Kirree Wildlife Park.
Seem fairly happy there, though.
Really lovely job done of that park this last few years, and everything bursting with colour, and the animals so happy to come and visit, and they come up to the fences, and really great job her and her team have done. Like she says, very grateful of all of the help and the volunteers there to make it such an attraction, and the little miniature railway, that's always special.
It is. You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kirree Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Well, this time of year, flowers budding round the countryside of the Isle of Man, and especially the bluebells, and one no better to talk to about them is John Dog Callister. Plenty of colour out in the Manx countryside at the moment.
Oh, the primroses are just finished, but the bluebells are mighty. There's you see little clumps. I'm sure there's bluebells growing where I never knew there were bluebells growing, if you know what I mean. Yes, they're wonderful.
Yeah, I've always been, I suppose, coming in up and down Thalty Will Glen, and you see a lot of them there, but you don't get a lot of time, do you, to see them?
No. On the brew there, Miller chap put some big stones in, and they're up on the bank, up on the top of there. It's mighty sight when they're all out. Glayvuck is the Manx name for a bluebell, and that's pig glue. And if you ever pick one and break it, it oozes like a gooey substance. So Glayvuck pig glue is the Manx name for them. You would think a beautiful flower that would have a lovely name, wouldn't you?
But when you look across that valley when they're in full flight, in the contrast with the green, it's just a sight to behold.
It is, yeah. It's worth going out of your way to go along there, just have a skeet at them. The primroses, I was mentioning, the primroses along the switchback were unbelievable this year. At the start, over near Poor Town, they were all on the bank there, the hedge banks, and they were fantastic. And then when you get to the other end, there's a clump of trees, and they're up in them trees. Wonderful.
Yeah, are they sort of declining where they are? Remember when we were kids, or is it just that we go different places now?
Well, I think that they're still in good numbers there. You get good years and bad years. I wouldn't know what causes the good years and bad years, but they were. It was a good year this year. It was worth. I used to go again, as I say, out of my way. If I was going to St John's, I'd normally go along the TT course reverse into St John's, but I would go through to the switchback and go along the switchback just to look at them.
What's next to flower out in the Manx countryside?
There'll be rosebay willowherb coming shortly. That's like a big tall pink thing, and that grows. It used to grow. We haven't got railway lines like we used to, but it used to grow on the railway lines, and the seeds are airborne, like little dandelion clocks, and the story was that the trains would, when they had the steam train, there would be fires. They'd be throwing stuff out now and again. There'd be fires, so you'd have bare ground, and the rosebay willowherb would be. It's a good invader, and it would land there, and it would be there in profusion. And then the train would come past, and all the seeds would be dragged along with the suck of the train and spread along. And I read a story somewhere that it wasn't a particularly prolific plant until the railways arrived, and for some reason it got onto the railway lines, and then it spread like bilio, and it's all over the place now. It's a great big tall pink thing. They have like what can you describe it, like a hollyhock, but a smaller version of the hollyhock, but individual pink flowers. Wonderful.
Good. A couple of weeks ago, you had the slideshow out on display. How did
Yes,
that go?
it went well. It went mighty. I'm doing another one for Culture Vannon. My daughter Jo is involved, and she's very technical minded. And but I did it in Peel, and it went well. I was concentrating on the Manx names because I think they're wonderful. I'm not a Manx speaker. Got a lot of words, not a lot of conversation, but I'm interested in the Manx names, and there's some wonderful names. And you think, how is that? Fewitry, Buagorn, brown cow. Where does that come from? Cowslip is meal bear. Cow's lip. Yeah. I always thought it would be cow slip, but it's not. It's cow's lip. Is the translation of the Manx name for it.
But they all have names, don't they?
Well, they'll all have. There'll be Manx names for all of them. Some of them are like I would. Some people might say corruptions or what the English name is translated into Manx. But I like to think that the Manx had the name first, and the English come along and asked what it was. And when we told them, they called it that. They translated it into English, and they called it that was the English name they give it.
Well, you can't speak a sort of posh English using a Manx accent very well, can you?
No. But there's as I say, the Manx names are there's some great names and thoughts how people got that idea for the flower.
And one thing, obviously we've spoke about it in the past when we've been talking to you during or slightly after the COVID happened last year, about people's perception of the countryside. A lot more people, I think, you see out walking because they've discovered it.
Yes, that there's a lot of people saying that, lots of people out and about these days, and I think people changed their ideas. They weren't allowed to go here, there and everywhere, so they walked where they lived, which they were allowed to. And in the Isle of Man, we've been very lucky, as you know, in comparison to across. And people would get out, and then a lot of them would be out in families, and then the children. I know as a child, I would say, "What's that, Dad?" and "What's that, Dad?" and that got me interested. And then if he didn't know, I'd find somebody who did, and that's people say, "How do you know all these names?" Interested. And ask questions.
No Google then?
No Google, no. You would talk to some old fella and he would say, and then you like George Quayle was an unbelievable person. What a shame. People like that should be kept and kept going. But he had all sorts of stories, and I must admit, I'm passing them on. I'm keeping that going. I'm not trying to take any credit for this. It's George Quayle's stories, and who he got them from, I don't know. And we just keep these stories going and letting people know, and little, funny little quirks, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, and that's what happens on the walks that a lot of people do, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all right saying, "Oh, there's an elm tree or a primrose."
Yeah.
When you've got a bit of a story behind it, makes the walk far more interesting.
It does, yeah. The trammon is like sacred in the Isle of Man, and there's a little fungus that grows on that called in English they call them the Jew's ear fungus. In Manx they're called fairy lugs, fairy ears. And they just look like a little lug. And so you're out and about and you say, "Oh, there's a trammon, that's the elder, that's our, the fairy tree, and you're not allowed to break a branch and all sorts." And I'll point out to people, I said, "See, they're called fairy lugs." And the story is that the fairies were inquisitive, so they left their ears above ground so they could hear what was happening. And you get, children groups. I've had school children out, and you tell them that story, and you show them one. The other thing is sometimes you get one that's all dried up, and I've gone to schools and did talks, and I've brought one of these dried up things with me, and they're holding it as old kind of thing. And you put that in a glass of water for about 5 minutes and take it out. It's all floppy, just like a lug again.
Good.
Another George Quayle told me that, and so I'm just keeping George's stories going.
John Dog Callister there telling us about the wildflowers, and also mentioned just missed it actually. Was talking about the hawthorn been out as well. So yeah, it's a great time for the countryside with the flowers and stuff.
And it smells so good too, doesn't it? It
But,
really is. The colours there, just now, with just the blues and the pink and the campions coming out on the roadsides, and it just feels like summer's on its way, doesn't it?
Yes, and just be careful where you park if you're looking at them as well. One thing also that he mentioned, I went up in one of those, the dog loft he calls it, and there was thousands of pair of spectacles that he's collecting to send to various countries. You know, there's the yellow bags are at ShopRite stores, I think. You can just pop an old pair of reading glasses or any types of glasses in, and he's collecting them and sending them away, so another good deed done. That's all we've got time for, though, on this week's Countryside. We're back next Tuesday with more, so until then, from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kirree Kermode.
We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.